So in my screen, you can see that now. It's all about curriculum planning in the new normal, reconciling the most essential learning competencies or MELCs with the K-12 standards. I know it's very challenging, but in all honesty, it's an easy task to do. If you've been teaching the K-12 curriculum for the past years, then you have all the resources you need to be able to prepare for your materials this coming school year. Although we only have less than a month, no, we still have more than a month to prepare for that. So my talk on curriculum planning on the new normal will be two parts. Part one is on concepts and principles of curriculum and curriculum planning, which we are going to answer the following questions. What is curriculum? What is curriculum planning? And what are the principles fundamental to successful curriculum design, planning, and implementation? Of course, that's what we're going to do. How do we prepare? How do we reconcile our materials in order to help our learners gain all the knowledge they need and skills, of course, the skills they need to be able to move on to the next level? That would be for July 6, 2020, that's today. And then part two will be on July 9 on Thursday. So part two on Thursday, we'll talk about curriculum planning and development process. We'll go for step-by-step how to do it. Although I'll be talking in general because some designs would be for all subject areas. But if you have questions about how it's done per subject area, I'll be most willing to entertain questions after each session. So the questions that we're going to answer on part two would be the following. What is the curriculum planning and development process? Step by step doing that. In fact, the curriculum planning process is from the beginning, before the class begins, during class, and after class. And then we have what are the phases and steps in curriculum planning and development. It's a little bit longer process than today, but I'm urging you to continue on to part two on Thursday. That'll be July 9 and 2020. All right. So let's begin with part one on concepts and principles of curriculum and curriculum planning. I know the topic is daunting, and I know that most of you have already taken curriculum, introduction to curriculum and curriculum planning in your master's and in your PhD courses. But this one is more of the things I've been doing for the past years as a curriculum consultant for the schools that I've been handling in the Philippines. And these are the things that actually work. So part one, concepts and principles of curriculum and curriculum planning. So question number one, what is curriculum? So when I visit the school, one of the things I would ask for would be your curriculum, the school curriculum. But what schools and teachers would give me would be a subject curriculum. They would give me a math curriculum. They would give me a science curriculum. What I'm asking is first, is the school curriculum. I need to know what the school stands for and what are the subject curriculum are placed in order to promote the school curriculum. So in reality, curriculum has a generic definition and a specific definition. But remember that the specific definition or concept of curriculum still revolves under what we call as the school curriculum. And there's a possibility that as we go on with the talk, you realize that you've been doing micro curriculum planning, but failed to do macro curriculum planning. So let's answer the question one. So digitally talking, or on a graphical presentation, a school curriculum are all the things that we offer to our students at school or in school. We have the curricular programs. Curricular programs are your science, your math, your English, your subject areas, all the subjects that you offer, they are called curricular programs, and they are designed to be spiral from entry to exit. In the K-12 curriculum, we have key stages that we have kinder, that's K stage 1, Key stage 2, we have kinder to grade 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, and 11 to 12. We need to look into planning. Are all the standards and the learning competencies being taught in kinder to grade 3 are acquired by our students? Otherwise, if not, then students, when they are promoted to grade 4, will struggle so much because there is a change of sets of learning competencies and standards. Therefore, it is very imperative for teachers and educators in teaching in elementary and those teaching in the primary and intermediate and high school to come together and look into preparation. All right, so that would be curricular programs again. So school curriculum is composed of curricular programs. But then again, we're not only offering curricular programs, we are also offering co-curricular programs. The co-curricular programs are school proposed programs like the clubs, the student government, the school paper, which enhances what the students are learning in the curricular programs. Now, remember that there are two parts of a school curriculum. Now, the two programs that we discussed, the curricular programs and the co-curricular programs, are called the overt curriculum. They are planned. The curricular programs are placed in such a manner that it's already placed so that learners traverse through all the stages. And then alongside the curricular programs, we have the co-curricular programs that support what our students are learning in the curricular programs. So it will look like that. Now, one of the many problems in the pandemic right now is that we are so focused on the curricular programs. What about the co-curricular programs? How do we do co-curricular programs for our students in the pandemic school year? Should it be done also online? I know the school paper can be done online, the clubs can be done online, but remember when it's done all online or modular, it takes a lot of time, preparation for both teachers and all other staffs in the school. In fact, in reality, distance learning, online learning is more demanding than the regular learning practice, the face-to-face practice inside the classroom. It requires a lot of preparation for teachers. Say a 30-minute online presentation would probably require a teacher to do days for that preparation. So we need to be lenient. We need to be supportive of our teachers, especially with this kind of learning mode. I know that we only have more than a month to talk about this. That's the dog. There we have dogs here. We know that the curricular programs, especially for the public schools, are being prepared by the central office, by the Bureau of Curriculum, Bureau of the Curriculum Development, and probably will be disseminated via the learning portal within the month. And so the teachers will be supported of how they're going to go about the teaching and learning process in the coming school year. But the problem right now is that the Wi-Fi connection is one of the main big problems. Not to mention the digital technology is also one of the problems, like, the laptops, one of the laptops would be one of the greater problems. Now, let's move on to other parts of the school curriculum. We have the extracurricular programs. Now, we know that co-curricular programs and extracurricular programs are somehow similar. But co-curricular programs are the ones that we plan for students to take. But the extracurricular programs are the things that students actually choose to go into. The subjects that they like, the subjects that they're interested into, the programs that the school offer, and where students personally choose and succeed. Do we look into that too? More often than not, the ones that we plan are not the things that our students learn. So what our students are actually learning in reality must be well documented so that we look into the data and help our teachers modify the learning deliveries. The extracurricular programs would be just one of the aspects of school curriculum. There's another one, the experience curriculum. The experience curriculum and extracurricular programs are called the covert curriculum. They are hidden curriculum, what the learners learn. The experience curriculum would be the culture and the behavior that our students actually learn at school beyond the curriculum programs. One of the many things that we need our students to experience at school would be discipline, independence, collaboration, all of the 21st century C's that they need to acquire. But the huge problem with the experience curriculum in the online learning is that how do we teach them all of this? It's challenge, collaboration, collaborative learning, collaborative projects, very, very demanding. Another one would be, how do we teach our students independence, discipline? I do not know yet, but there are a lot of studies already out there that we can look into. But then again, the Philippines is a unique kind of school educational platform or system because of the kind of culture that we have. The culture in Manila will be different from the cultures in Leyte, in Davao, in Cagayan de Oro. So what we plan out for the experience curriculum from one district, one division to another will be totally different. Although same standards, but the culture would be different. We need to look into that too. That's why the word contextualization is a very dynamic and important and imperative concept when you do curriculum planning. Now, the extracurricular programs that our students take by interest from the co-curricular program actually supports what they learn from the curricular programs. Therefore, it is really important for us that most of our examples in the curricular programs also move towards how they can behave in the programs that we offer at school. A good example would be MAPE. Could also talk about how to be an athlete, member of the athletics group, the basketball team, the glee club of the school, and so on and so forth. Likewise with them, those who are in the math club would also help students. Math students who are good in math or members of the math club should also have a challenge to help those students who are struggling in mathematics. Now, what's really important with the school curriculum would be the rules of the school, the rules of the classroom. That's why routines are very important. Now, experience curriculum is one of the many challenges of many schools, not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world, because of individual teacher personalities. More often than not, curricular programs would be effective, co-curricular programs be effective, but the experience curriculum and the extracurricular programs would utterly fail. One would be in the extracurricular programs, students fear to go into a certain interest club in the school, probably because the advisor is so strict. They are not having fun doing what they're doing in the clubs or the interest clubs. So there is that problem. Another one would be in the experience curriculum. There are some strict teachers, lenient teachers, some teachers who would allow students to submit requirements on late. Some would be so strict. So students have problems with how do I acquire discipline and obedience and independence when most of our teachers do not have a unified practice of all of these core values. So in reality, when we talk about school curriculum, let's just summarize that. A school curriculum refers to the combination of subjects studied within a school year and in sequential years as the learner moves through educational system provided by the school. I think the K-12 curriculum CGs and the MELCs have given us this sequential years, the sequential competencies and standards for each subject. But the challenge here would be, how do we combine, do horizontal articulation of the standards from one subject to another in a particular grade level. It will be so daunting, so demanding for our students that if there are, say, 8 subjects, there will be 8 online modules for that, 8 online videos, and 8 different performance standards to perform. What the K-12 curriculum and MELCs is requesting us in the field to do is that for teachers teaching a certain subject of a certain grade level, say grade 7, they should sit down together and then come up with combinations. Horizontal articulation probably would say mathematics could combine with science, English could combine with MAPE, or probably Filipino with Araling Palipunan. I don't know how you're going to do that, but your combination would be unique from one school to another. Why? Because the combinations or the horizontal articulation we're doing would totally depend on how you plan out your activities. And will also be dependent, not just how you plan out your activities, especially on your facilities and available digital technologies, but also on the technical know-how of your teachers. All right. Next would be subject curriculum refers to the content and skills contained within a syllabus applied across sequential stages of student learning. These stages normally refer to school year levels and therefore a particular age of learner. What we want to see here is the spiral progression. Again, this part here, a subject curriculum refers to contents contained within a syllabus, is done by the Department of Education. It's given to us, but the first definition of school curriculum definitely must be done by teachers in each school. Next, we have co-curricular curriculum refers to valued educational activities to support learning beyond the school curriculum, meaning valued educational activities. It cannot be just offer activities every now and then. We have to look into years, say in the past 3 years, these are the clubs and the interest clubs and organizations, student organizations that have been supporting their learning of all and enhancing what they have learned in the subject areas. So these are the things that we need to enhance every year and improve. What we do is just we offer all of these programs, co-curricular programs, that are looking into their effectiveness. Do we continue with it this year or not? If it failed last year, why did it fail? What were the problems encountered that the program or the interest club or student organization utterly failed? Do we do something about that this year? This is such a meticulous problem and responsibility for teachers, because more often than not, those who are teaching in the curricular programs are also the ones handling the co-curricular program. So they're having 2 responsibilities in one school year. So do we have support? Is the school supporting these responsibilities given to our teachers? If not, then we are planning our school curriculum to fail. Next would be extracurricular curriculum or program are various social and other types of activities like literary, dramatic, and social services which attracted attention of the learners. I would like to highlight the word attracted attention of the learners. We need to have data. Who are the students really going into this class? Are we requiring all students, or those students only who are interested? I think we need to require all students to be part of the co-curricular programs. I mean, we have to require our students to have extracurricular programs or activities so that their learning in the subject areas is enhanced. There's an automatic performance of what they're learning in the classroom in the interest clubs and student organizations. Otherwise, do you think that the students will practice the things they learn in the classroom, in online learning, at home, in the community? Probably, but we cannot guarantee that all students will be doing that. remember, not all students have been tuned to be self-propelling and self-motivated. Next, the experienced curriculum, the ones that our students experience, refers to the learning students actually receive as a result of the whole educational experience the school provides. So if, say, there are certain incoming grade 7 students who utterly struggle, or called struggling students in grade 7, a lot of grade 7 teachers would say they were not prepared for grade 7. So there's a high possibility that their education in the intermediate levels, grades 4 to grade 6, was faulty or not enough. But we could say that the curriculum was written to succeed. But there's another aspect of that. What was experienced by our students? Interest comes a great factor in the learning experience of our students. We need to mitigate what our teachers require in high school and let them talk to the elementary teachers what they're supposed to be teaching and preparing them for secondary education. More often than not, in the public system, we have a separate campus for high school and a separate campus for elementary. And there's, if not never, enough situation for teachers in the high school and elementary to come together and talk about it, and so that they can mitigate and reconcile what they want from students in elementary to acquire so that they will fend well in high school. In some private schools, though, it can be done because they have only one campus, one school management, and handling all these programs. And they can, ask the teachers in elementary and high school to sit down together and talk about the prerequisites that the higher grade level would require students to have. At least they're doing something about the mitigating and reconciling of the requirements, and especially on the standards and the learning competencies. So that's about the definition of school curriculum. Therefore, we get to learn now that the school curriculum is a total package of the programs that we offer to our students. Have we looked into the other programs? Have we looked into other programs aside from just curricular programs? I think what's happening right now in the pandemic is that all teachers are concerned with the curricular programs and probably have no time dealing with co-curricular programs and dealing with experienced curriculum. My question is, how will the routines be integrated in the online learning, in the distance learning, in the modular learning? If routines in the regular face-to-face curriculum is easy because the teacher is present, the students are in school, one way or the other, they are supposed to follow the school policies, rules and regulations, and the classroom routines and school regulation. What if they're doing that at home? If not at home, if they're doing that on an internet cafe, how are the routines embedded in the learning process? I think we need to look into the parts of your modules that should also integrate the routines. It's a struggle for us right now, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. So this is just a definition and concept of school curriculum. Now, what learners actually experience may not be the same as the written objectives of the curriculum. It will be the consequence of the complex web interdependent parts, including, meaning what could be other reasons if we fail? Like, this is what we've been teaching to our students. This is what we have hoping that our students experience in our school, and yet they come out different. They come out deviant from what we expected them to be. So these are certain factors that probably we failed to integrate in our planning. One, the school's vision and values. I think when we plan out our modules, be it online or be it distance learning or modular, it is very important that when we come up with activities and we come up with, say, videos to integrate, pictures that we integrate, it's also mitigating and helping our learners acquire and realize the school's vision and values. We'll have an example of that in a while. So this is one of the reasons. Second would be teaching quality. I think the teaching quality factor is one of many problems ever since the school Philippine educational system has begun. It's because I think our teachers plan out their activities every school year, starting from zero. Although I'm not generalizing that all schools, there are some schools have been doing what we call as reflective approach to planning. What they do is that they look into the plans they did last year, the last school year, and look at what worked and didn't work. They retain what worked and then somehow replace what didn't work. It cannot be just every year new approach, unless of course the curriculum changes. We have to start from zero. But since our curriculum, even if MELCs, we're using the MELCs or the MELCs, still it came from the K-12 content standards and the performance standards. So we are not really actually veering away from the K-12 curriculum. We have just minimized the learning contents with so many in the K-12 curriculum guides. And now in the MELCs, we have somehow the same content standards and performance standards per quarter, per grade level, per quarter, with the learning competence that have been somehow compact, summarized to make sure that these are the most essential learning competences that our students must acquire on a certain quarter and a certain grade level. Now, one of the many problems also with the teaching quality is that the strategies and approaches the teachers use, it cannot be just trial and error. What I've observed with most of the teachers, well, some of the teachers that I have observed here in Cavite, is that every day they would have different strategies. Remember that strategies that we use at school is two-faceted. It is for teaching and for learning. Teachers cannot just use a strategy, change that every day, because if teachers will be changing the strategy every day, learners are learning a new way of learning every day. Stick with it, stick with a strategy until such time that the strategy becomes the learning style, become the learning mode of the learning process of your learners. Next would be learner motivation and previous knowledge. And I think we have this a lot. Learner motivation. Now, if in face-to-face, at least the teacher can motivate the students, visual materials that they've been using, the voice of the teacher, the personality of the teacher in front of the students would somehow motivate the students. But how is it done in online? How can teachers do that? How can they change their facial expression and then engage students? It's really a struggle right now. I'm struggling. I do not see any participant. I don't see any facial expression. I don't know if I have to expand on a certain concept or not, because I don't see any face. I just assume that somehow you understood what I'm trying to explain and move on to the next. This is some of the struggles that we need to face into. The learner motivation, like how fast? What would be my pace? Would that change the motivation of my learners? Now, what about the previous knowledge? Am I assuming too much? All right. School leadership and environment and culture. Now, it is nice for our students to somehow absorb the learning perspective, how to learn, to study perspective, is because they are in a school. But the challenge with the pandemic school year, is that how do we, with the school leadership course, absent in the homes and the internet cafe, create an environment and culture for students to actually focus on learning. That after listening to, say, a video on online feed, they continue on with their assignment or activity and not open Mobile Legends or League of Legends because they're in the internet cafe. Or probably if they don't play online games, they open Facebook and then chat with their friends. These are things that we need to look into. Or probably we could combine that. But what I'm trying to say here is that it would be nice if we enlist the help of parents, grandparents, and the people that our students are living with at home, so that they help us in creating the environment and culture conducive to learning. Otherwise, it's like watching K-pop, Korean telenovela, and then just watching it and then just enjoying it. There's a huge difference between enjoying what you're watching from enjoying and learning what you are watching. So that's what we want our students to do. Enjoy and learn from what they are watching or reading. Next would be the school's curriculum and subject curricula. Have we somehow created a more interesting way of delivering the subject area? I know that our learners right now in the 21st century epoch are more visual learners. So would there be more teacher talk than digital presentations? I do believe that there are a lot of I think a lot of online materials available by YouTube and all other online platforms that teachers can use. So please allow our teachers to integrate all of this in their planning. It cannot be always original. We cannot reinvent the wheel when they're already existing. Math concepts, there are a lot of lectures on math concepts online that teachers can use, especially if they're not yet comfortable talking about it online. We can allow our teachers, please do allow them to do that. Let us not be so strict, because right now with the pandemic, everything for our teachers are all novel, all new. So let's support them. Next would be assessment and practices and expectations. Assessment in the pandemic school year would be a great challenge. How do we do that? Is it online? If it's done online, how do you monitor to minimize cheating? How do we ensure that the students are the ones actually answering or doing the assessment? I think we can do something about the performances, record that, and they can post that and submit that online. But if it's, say, a paper pencil assessment, how do we do that? I'm not saying it's not right, it's not good. It can be done. But with our teachers' capacity right now, have we given them trainings how to do online assessment and minimizing cheating? Next would be the school's internal structures and operations. If our teachers are doing online and preparing for modular, what will be what other supports can we give to our teachers? Because whether we like it or not, we are the ones who will be tired, who will be doing Herculean tasks, tantamount to really, really impossible work this pandemic school year, will be our teachers. Have we looked into this possibility? Like, say, grade 7, and I'm just saying grade 7, we have about, say, 3 teachers teaching math subject for grade 7. Now in my school, I would say 1 teacher who has good oral communication skills, probably pleasing personality, will do the online, will be the ones be seen on video doing the lecture, while the 2 will be the ones writing the modules. Have we looked into this kind of setup? Instead of individual teacher preparation, have we came up with the idea that teachers can collaborate to teach a subject in a certain grade level. This would somehow help our teachers a lot traverse the difficulties they will encounter while planning. Well, planning is one, implementing is another one. All right, so these are some of what we call as creative ways we can think of. But if we only have one teacher teaching one subject, alas, a lot of private schools, like one teacher teaching one subject but across grade levels, that's a huge problem. I also see a lot of problems for a multi-grade classroom in the public school system, where a teacher teaching grades 1 to grade 1 to grade 3, teaching all the subjects. I don't know. That's too much for a teacher to handle. It would be nice if in the public school, the division or the district identify who will be writing, developing, contextualizing the MELCs using the materials they did in the K-12 standards. You have already existing materials in the K-12 curriculum. You all have to do is just contextualize and modify them to the MELCs. It could be cropped down, or if you see that there's little deviation from what you've been doing last year to the MELCs, then you can probably use the same material and then develop that into online materials and modular materials. But the question is, who will be doing the modules, and who will be doing the online? I think for the district, it would help the schools in the district if we create a team. Or if it cannot be done in district, we can do division if we like. But then again, if the division is so huge that the culture is quite different and the language different, like a good example would be one of the biggest division in the Philippines would be the division of Camarines Sur. There would be different languages. We have the Rinconada district, and we have the Naga Bicol. The language would be totally different, and some problem would have two teams for that. These are just some of my suggestions that can be done, because it will be too much for individual preparation of individual subjects per grade level. It will be too much. We will be killing our teachers. We are putting them in harm's way. So the solution to this teaching and learning discrepancy, all of this, is through the school strategic plan. So I know that you've been doing school strategic plan in the past years, but you need to create a school strategic plan for the pandemic years. How do we do this? Who will develop the materials? Who will do the online thing? Who will do the monitoring thing? And so on and so forth. We cannot say, do the monitoring. All teachers, individual teachers should do the module, writing the module, development of the online materials, do the assessment, do the monitoring, and so on. That's the end of the world. I'm sorry, but that's too much. My preparation for this presentation, for an hour and a half or 2 hours presentation, took me 2 to 3 days of presentation. I developed 12 to 15 page notes for this. And it took me another day to finish a PowerPoint presentation. And we're only talking about just this presentation. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Not to mention with a curriculum and essential learning competencies to consider in the planning process. So we need right now, probably after my presentation, sit down together and do a school strategic plan to help our teachers traverse the predicament that they will be encountering this pandemic school year. This should include a statement of headlining longer-term priorities, objectives of up to 5 years ahead, and detailed one implementation plan. I think you know this already, because remember that the MELC, if you've read in the briefer, that this will be the curriculum that will be used during the pandemic. Now, once the pandemic is done, we go back to the K-12 curriculum. Hopefully by then, probably after a year or 2 years from now, the Department of Education via the BCD will publish the final K-12 curriculum. So we revert back to the K-12 curriculum. So hopefully the MELCs, the materials that we will be using in the pandemic are not so totally deviant or different from the K-12 curriculum. So my suggestion is use the materials you've been using in the past 3 to 5 years using the K-12 curriculum and modify that using the MELC so that you do not vary so much from the K-12 standards. Now, I know you have a lot of questions, so if you have a lot of questions, just key in your questions, I think, on the Facebook page, and someone is, I think Kia will be monitoring this questions. Oh my God, I'm just looking at the Facebook right now. We have 21,000 comments and 7.7 shares. I'm sorry, I'm still looking at it. It's overwhelming. Thank you very much for the viewers. 17,000. This is the biggest, I think. Anyway, so if you have questions on the first question, what is curriculum? What is school curriculum? You may key in that. You may key in your in the comments part, I think, and then Kia will sift through these questions and answer them later on. I'll just have to move on, continue with my input. Time check, it's already 11:45, 10:46. Thank you very much, Kia, for answering. All right, so next question would be, what is curriculum planning? So in a school, we have the following things to consider. We have the curricular programs, the co-curricular programs, the extracurricular programs. We have the experience curriculum. We have the teachers, school linkages. We have the learners. We have the school facilities. We have the academic subjects. We have the teacher training. And of course, we have the school support system. Now, sorry, these are the things that we have, although there are more than that. They're the things that we have in the school. Like teachers, we have training for teachers. Under the teachers category will be subcategories as well. But let's just suffice, these are the most essential factors that we have, factors that contribute to the effective teaching learning process at school. These are the things. So we have school planning means, how do we integrate all of these factors into one coherent, consistent plan? How do we prioritize? Which comes first? Do we plan the curricular programs first before we do the co-curricular programs first? Do we train the teachers first before they do actual planning? Do the teachers need the school support system? Like, do our teachers have Wi-Fi connection at home? They're going to do teaching online at home. Do they have Wi-Fi connection? Would that cost so much on their financial? Would that be a financial burden on their part? Or it would be nice if we have just one connection at school where our teachers would be there teaching online in their respective classrooms, where the school would subscribe just one connection. Well, of course, with a really high bandwidth. Instead of, and the teachers, if it's not being funded by the school, well, hopefully the public school will be funded by the special education fund, the local government, or or any funding that the Department of Education can download to the districts, to the division, to the districts and the schools. It would be nice that there's only one, that the school is the one subscribing for the Wi-Fi connection instead of individual teachers subscribing for it. I mean, just thinking, just looking at the financial burden right now. I know we are going through this problem right now, especially because of the pandemic. It's not only it's taking its toll on our health and our economy, but it's taking also financial problems on our teachers. So just as a suggestion though, so school planning is for the school to choose from existing teachers at school. Who are your best math teachers? Who are your best science teachers? English teacher, very effective teachers of the past 3 years. Put them together as a team to create the school plan. Why? Because if we have one team developing the materials, and these are what we call as the best teachers and the best educators in the school or the district or the division, we ensure that the materials they will be developing and planning would be quality. What will differ now would be how the teachers in the individual classrooms or online classrooms deliver the materials. But if what we do is that every teacher develops their own materials, who will be monitoring, validating, and checking the materials that we're doing? If I'm, say, the master teacher or the subject area coordinator of, say, high school, or and I'm going to check all the modules, that's too much. But if I have one team, or one school for the whole school, then I'll be only monitoring these people and how they develop. And before the materials are disseminated to our teachers for implementation, they have been validated in terms of content, in terms of course, activities, and whether they realize the learning competence. These are many struggles right now. All right. So school planning is coming up with a good idea. Remember, the Department of Education will not give you this. The school plan is not given to you by the Department of Education Central Office. What is given to you would be the guidelines, how to implement that. The curricular programs, but the planning will be done by school. In the private schools, you have no choice but to do school planning. For, say, Catholic schools, say, the diocese, can be done instead of per Catholic school. Why not do by diocese, one cluster? So do it by cluster. In the division, in the Department of Education, can be done by region. But again, it's too big for the region because you cannot accommodate differences in one division to another in terms of context. So I think would be division, and then division perhaps would divide responsibilities to the different districts. I don't know how you're going to do that, but it would help our teachers and help alleviate the problems being encountered by our teachers right now by doing creative ways, collaborative ways like this, creating teams, school plan, so that we do not plan to fail. We plan to succeed and not plan to fail. So curriculum planning then is the process of structuring learning experiences using the expertise and knowledge of educators. Take note, expertise and knowledge of educators. So please, school principals, school heads, district supervisors, superintendents, EPS, allow teachers to sift through the materials they've been using in the past 5 years and choose which of those activities, lesson plans, of course, which jive with the MELCs, can be retained for the pandemic, and those that cannot be retained, that's the only things that they're going to write or develop. Don't allow our teachers, or do not require our teachers to start from zero. Too much. At least things that it has been tested. If we are going to ask our teachers to look into your lesson plans in the past 5 years, we've been implementing K-12 for the past 5 years, which those lesson plans vis-a-vis the standards have worked well. Sir, how do I know that these activities work well? Look into the results of the assessment. Were the results of the assessment high for our students? If it yielded high results, then the activity is effective, provided, of course, that the assessment was validated. All right. Look, which fundamentally focuses on the enhancement of student learning. I'm looking at the word enhancement. So curriculum planning by school is enhancing the curriculum and the guidelines and the protocol disseminated or downloaded by the Department of Education Central Office. So what happens at the curriculum plan of one private school to another is totally different. Why? Because they have different PVMGs. But in the Department of Education public schools, they can probably share district to district, school to school, and so on and so forth. But there's a high possibility that the materials developed in one district or one division cannot be used by another division. Context-wise, they may differ a lot. But I think, I'm not sure though, but I think regional office should look into this discrepancies. If you say most of the divisions have the same context, the same culture, probably we can have planning in the regional level, but that would be easier. But alas, since the Philippines is an archipelago, In one island alone, there will be different contexts. In Leyte and Samar may have different contexts from Leyte. In Leyte alone, the context in Tacloban would be different in context of, say, Palo, and so on and so forth. We need to look into this though. I will deal with these questions, this mental queries when we go through the process on Thursday. We'll look into the process of doing the curriculum planning and what probably problems would arise, and then we'll talk about certain solutions to it. But these are just general problems that I'm thinking about with the curriculum planning using the MELCs in the K-12 in the pandemic school year. All right. Now, the fundamental purpose of curriculum planning is to, one, ensure that all students experience a quality education appropriate to their needs in changing world. Now, one thing that you need to consider in developing your online materials and your modules right now would be the results of the literacy level of our students, which was published last year. Most of our students in the Philippines may have basic reading skill, but they may have not acquired critical reading skills. I think Vibal came up with a session on reading or the teaching of reading, but if you want me to talk about how to integrate literacy development in the process of developing a material, especially for online, I can talk about that, but please not this week, probably next week, so that I can prepare for the presentation. But that's one of the many things that we need to look into. Another one would be the results of mathematics. Our students have problem with numbers. So how do we integrate numeracy in science, in English, in Filipino? Because we cannot say that numeracy skills are just the responsibility of math teachers. Numeracy is integrated in all subject areas. Literacy is integrated in all subject areas. It cannot be just the responsibility of the English and Filipino. Remember, if we require our students to read online materials and modules, then in all subjects, then we are assuming that our students are critical readers. Again, critical reading is a higher form, higher set of skills from basic reading skills. All right? So ensuring all students experience. Because there's a possibility that we have a really good material, we develop really good materials, but the problem lies on the capacity, the skills, the literacy skills of our students to digest, to understand these materials. We still fail. Remember, when we develop materials, we're looking at two facets, two sides of the same coin. Develop materials based on the curriculum, but can students understand this? I'm not saying that we lowered down the standard. I'm looking at the possibility of developing the materials in a language or level of vocabulary that students can understand, so that the content is not compromised of words the teachers are using that students do not understand. I know that the vocabulary of math teachers and science teachers in high school and elementary are higher than their students. So we need to help we need to bridge the gap between the vocabulary of our students and the vocabulary that our material developers will be using in the online and modular approach. So once we have mitigated that, we need to focus on the enhancement of student learning. Now, if these are the input, how do we enhance the learning of our students? Online, so say the input would be done modular, enhancement would be done online. I don't know how you're going to combine that, but a good way to do that would be to sit down together, which would be the enhancement and which one would be the instruction. Remember, there is no enhancement if there is no instruction. So instruction comes first before enhancement. I think we know that, right? Focus on delivering the standards, learning competencies, and content of the curriculum. Always remember, when we develop the materials, we begin with the standards and the learning competencies. I've been looking into the materials developed by some teachers. I'm not going to say from where and for who and by whom, but there are some modules that have been developed topic-based. I said, we are standards and learning competency based. Therefore, I need to know what are the standards, what are the learning competencies that this material helps our students acquire and develop in themselves. It's not just learning of the topic. Topic is supporting the standards. Therefore, when we develop the materials, it is very important we explicitly mention what standards and learning competencies are being realized by that material. Then allow student achievement to be measured against set standards and learning competence. Department Order Number 8, Series of 2015, and I think Central Office released Department Order Number 21, Series of 2019. So we just look into the standards and learning competencies and how the assessment can be done. There are no ways to do it, but to follow the department order. Although the private schools can improve on the standards and the protocols in the order, but it cannot, veer away from it. So the way in which the curriculum is structured and delivered is determined by individual schools, networks of schools. So individual schools, say a private school is independent, it doesn't have another campus. But if it's a standalone, no other campuses, no other branches, it could be probably a member of a private school association, and all the private school association can come together and sit down. Can we come together? Can this private school provide us with their best English teacher, because your school been producing good students who are so good in English and Filipino and communication skills, to provide us with a teacher and help us develop the materials. If you don't want to do individual, because it's really difficult, we can do by private schools association. Again, the public school, it can be done by district, by division, or it can be done by school, but I'm suggesting do it by division or by district. Well, in the division level, there are a lot of EPS who can help with the development of materials, but it would be nice if we also get teachers from the field. At the end of the day, the classroom teachers are the ones going to deliver the materials. That's why we need to enlist their ideas how to develop the materials, because they have the idea, they have the basics and the baseline of how students will accept the materials. Your teaching program reflects the vision, direction, and purpose of your school. I think one of the things that we need to integrate by now would be the values. Remember that our students will be, sorry, am I fast? I'm getting used to the online, talking to myself that I can no longer monitor my speed. So I'll try to slow down, getting excited about what I'm talking about. All right. Since our students are absent in the school, the culture that we want our students to develop and approximate the learning environment and atmosphere is somehow absent at home. So one of the things that we need to do is to integrate the values we want our students to acquire via the activities they will be doing in the module or in the online. So it would be nice if you look into that too. Not just pure content, but also integration of, say, Philippine issues, so that students acquire certain values. Say, my lesson in science is all about, say, just commonly water cycle. I know that some of the teachers have been, got used to hearing me use water cycle as an example. Say that the lesson in science would be water cycle. We could probably integrate problems on water shortage problems, drought perhaps, in the lesson. Instead of just what is water cycle, we can say what are the implications of the water cycle How do we use the knowledge we gain from the water cycle in mitigating problems encountered by our country, or say in Cagayan de Oro, that most of our cities, most of our barangays are already paved, and water cannot seep through the soil, and absorption of water via the trees and the soil going underground is near to zero. How do we solve that? All right, so these are the things that we need to integrate. Why? Because at school we can handle that. We call that as what do you call that? The learning, the questions that our students ask us, and then somehow it's a eureka moment, like a eureka moment. Uh, there's a word for that. Can anyone message me that? Anyway, the learning that just comes out of nowhere. Can we somehow plan that in the modules and the online that we develop? So it's very important that we integrate local issues, situations, national issues, and of course, global issues. Well, be careful with the issues that you integrate, because the anti-terror bill has been approved. So it's an act right now. So make sure that the issues you integrate in your online modules would not somehow be against the government. Just saying. I'm not sure though how. I've not read thoroughly the act, but probably tonight or tomorrow I'll look into that. And how would that affect our planning? Now, in summary, the school curriculum plan are planned by chosen, experienced educators in the school or across school or inter-schools, schools, by associations or private associations, by district, by division. Eureka, thank you very much, Ma'am Nelsie. Yeah, a eureka moment, a learning. It's a eureka moment for students. Yeah, it's a connection that they see. Thanks, Ma'am Nelsie. So going back to school curriculum plan, they are planned educators. They planned that out, but not just any teacher, because there are a lot of teachers are good at delivering the lesson, but may not necessarily be good writers, not good. They do not register well on cam. Like myself, I don't register well. I think my forward is glistening like an airport. I mean, we'll look into that too. Remember that one of the many reasons why some of in Australia, some of the reasons that the online platform for teaching and learning failed would be the teacher delivering the lesson was not pleasing at all. I think right now I need to talk slower because I slur some of my words. So I think this is one of the things that we need to traverse over when we develop our online materials. It's not that easy, but it's one thing that we need to consider. But I'm saying here is that school curriculum plan must be done by a group of teachers, not all teachers, unless of course you're going to teach and train all teachers to do that. But then again, individual planning of teachers by subject area, by grade level, by quarter, by week would require a lot of checking by the school heads, by the school management. Do we have enough time for that? And of course, part of the school curriculum plan would be the educators are planning the module for our learners. All right, so we need to deliver the materials in such a way that it's comprehensible for our learners. We need to, there are things that we need to consider. Student background, language competency level of our learners, what they need to develop still in their language and the content, what activities we need to look into too for students who are not self-motivated, and how do we create online materials and modules that would motivate our learners to actually open it and start viewing it and reading it. I think a black and white would not be appealing to our students. colored would be nice. So colored materials online would be easy for our teachers to develop. But what about on modules? If we're using a brown paper with black and white, and somehow, would you think our students would be motivated, interested to open a module that is already brown and brown paper in black and white? And some teachers would say, ang arte naman ng mga estudyante dito nung panahon ko. Wait. We're not considering the students decades ago. We're considering students now, the current students. We cannot, when we consider that those materials are the learners that we have right now, the learners, not the learners 10 years ago or decades ago. We cannot compare who we were to who they are right now. Mitigating and reconciling that. Next would be the learning environment. How do we create that the online material that they're using or would be viewing, or the module that we're reading, would somehow approximate the learning environment that they will experience or should experience in an actual classroom. I don't know how it's done, but if we enlist and orient the parents that if we can designate a place at home, let's say a part of a sala, in their sala, kung meron man sala, no? Is baka naman sa isang bahay, no? Sorry to shift to Filipino. Am I okay to shift to Filipino? Baka naman ang isang bahay, pagpasok mo, nandun na ang kitchen, nandun na ang dining, nandun na ang sala, na isa lang talaga. Tapos, magkakapatid pa sila, no? Tapos, dikit-dikit sila, yung isa grade 1, yung isa grade 7, and most of them would have different required responses online or modules. I think, mahirap yun. These are the things that we have somehow, the learning environment, approximation when we develop the materials on the plan. How do we consider that? Saan ang mga bata? Okay lang siguro kung mag-isa ang anak sa bahay. Paano kung maraming anak? Kung sa ibang mga lugar, meron ng okay. All right. So the learning environment should be considered when we develop the materials, online or modular. Okay? Have we considered that? Have we given orientation to our parents? If not to our parents, not just the parents per se, the community. The community has a right to know what this school will be doing. We need the support of the whole community of the learning style and the learning platforms that we'll be using for this pandemic school year. All right. Marami pong mga senior citizens na walang kinikita at kailangan na may kita. I think siguro pwede natin kausapin ng the Municipal Education Council to probably give out fund na sana pwedeng mag-volunteer po ang mga lolo't lola na pwedeng, I don't know how you're gonna do that. It's just an idea that I thought of right now. We can probably do that. Another one also would be, pwede bang ang mga bata, pwede bang ang local government magbigay ng suporta sa Wi-Fi connection man lang ng mga families sa kanilang barangay o sa kanilang municipality? Or is it possible that a municipality can subscribe a Wi-Fi connection? I don't know. But I think it can be feasible. But if there are many, say, in terms of population, of many students going online, would that, have a problem on the bandwidth of the connection? Baka naman mag-traffic, baka something like that. And of course, that's what I'm talking about. In the school curriculum plan, we plan out how to enlist the help of parents or caregivers, primary caregivers at home. Concerned parents could be like myself, uncle, the aunts, all other members of the all other members of the family at home who would be present during the time the students will be going online. So we need to have that. Now, how the orientation will be done, perhaps we'll have also an online orientation for our parents if it cannot be done at school. And all of this, of course, would be to realize your school's vision. Of course, for the Department of Education, we'll be using the Department of Education vision. But for the private schools, we have two processes to do. We need to realize the school vision, our school vision, and realize the Department of Education's vision. All right. So to summarize that part of my my second part of my presentation, let's read this. The school's vision is a compelling sense of the future direction of the school. It should inspire commitment from the whole school community and be widely shared. Okay? Widely shared. Hindi pwedeng ang isang teacher ang mas mahirap kasi na nagkakaroon po na bakit mas maraming trabaho itong teacher na to kasi mas magaling yun. Ito hindi eh. Bakit ganoon? Kung sino pa yung trabaho ng trabaho, siyang binabagsakan ng maraming trabaho. Kaya nga marami tawa ko ng tawa kasi there was one, I think this is a comment from one of the teachers of the participants when I did a lecture in Cagayan de Oro. I think that was Xavier University. Sabi niya, sir, ito kasing problema namin. Kasi kung sino ang dedicated, siya yung maraming trabahong binibigyan. Siya yung maraming binibigyan